Well, welcome to the Wesley Show. We have a special featured guest today, my neighbor, Marshmallow.
Well, indeed, we do have such a special guest. Wesley, thank you for inviting Marshmallow. Marshmallow, we were wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Wesley, for inviting me. My story is, I grew up in a very comfortable, privileged background. My family were, my father was a 5-time winner of the MacArthur Genius Award, very academic man, and my mother was a model in New York. She modeled for Purina Cat Chow. And I was born one of 5 and eventually made my way from New York down to Nashville here. And, but you may not know this, you being a dog, Wesley, but fact is, my family was very academic, as I say, and we really were all atheists. We didn't believe in God, and actually very few cats believe in God nowadays. Much more of a dog thing, I think. I'm interested to hear about that, actually. But I've been watching your show, and I've been interested in the way that you talk about your faith in God, and I was curious about how that came to be.
Well, I'm talk too much about my background on the Wesley Show, but long story short, kind of a rough puppyhood. Dad left before I even really knew him, and my mother passed away. So I kind of grew up in a rough part of town outside of Boston, and I was eventually adopted by a wonderful man. Took me in, and his name is Josh. He's the one who gave me this collar here, good dog collar. But even though Josh was great and everything, I had some problems, and I had just issues like I stole socks all the time. I stole Josh's socks, and I knew I shouldn't, but it was like a behavior I couldn't control. It owned me, if you know what I mean. I do it in secret, and I just run into his room, and I'd pick him up out of his sneakers and stuff and take him, and it was a coping mechanism. It was a way of dealing with my childhood. But as I say, Josh was a very good man, and he never used to hit me or spank me or do anything like that. But one day he just sat me down. He said, Wesley, this problem is bigger than you, and you actually need a higher power to overcome it.
So Josh told you about a higher power, but then what happened? I mean, I've heard of a higher power as well, but what does that really mean?
Well, Josh was very specific. He said that he personally knew Jesus, and that Jesus actually came into the world to help us when we feel, locked into like problems and stuff we can't handle. Jesus is the Son of God, and he came into the world to help free us from these kind of, destructive patterns. And so he said, Wesley, you just need to ask Jesus to come into your life. You need to ask him, say you believe in him. You believe, because Jesus actually died on a cross to free, dogs like me, people too, of these kinds of problems. So, I did. I sat down and I asked Jesus to come into my life, and it wasn't just whammo, instant, no more socks stolen, but over time, as I got to know the love of the Lord, and that I was just accepted by him and forgiven, and I found it easier and easier. And that really was, it was the beginning of my personal walk, you know, with the Lord.
Wow, that's quite a story, Wesley. I'm so glad you shared that with me. And I mean, I have to say, I'm gonna have to think about it, you know. I mean, I'm very intellectual, and you know, just believing in something I can't see, it's kind of, you know, it presents challenges, but I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Well, you know, so do I.